Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want to talk about mental toughness. We've talked a lot about being physically tough. I like to talk about being physically fit. But today I want to talk a little bit about mental strength. You know how some people just seem like they're more mentally strong, mentally tough than others? You really notice this when hard times come. Everybody's had a hard year over the last year because of the virus and the economy. Some people are handling it better than others. The people that are handling it well are mentally strong, and the people that aren't are mentally weak. It's pretty obvious. I know what it's like to be mentally weak. Now that I feel like I'm getting mentally strong, I wanted to pass on some little bit of knowledge about a trick, just a little tip towards how to do it. But first of all, what is it? So being mentally strong to me means being resilient and being able to bounce back from something bad that happens, from tough times, rough spots in our life. Weak people, usually are drama queens, and they fall apart at the littlest thing. I know what that's like. I've been that way. I felt that there was so much of a roller coaster ride, so much drama in my life, most of which that I created or allowed to happen. But that's a different topic. It kept me in a constant state of paranoia and anxiety, to where it was not very hard to push me over the edge, to push me off that cliff. I would feel easily overwhelmed by the smallest thing. And I really felt weak. And I could put on a tough veneer, a tough attitude, but inside, I really wasn't handling life very well. And I would make horrible decisions because of my mental weakness. And I got horribly lost in addiction. Any rough spot in my life that would happen either to me or around me, the first thing I would do is go to the beer store. I mean, that would be the go-to thing, numb myself and forget about it, as if it would go away. I would make terrible decisions with relationships, friends. I let anger consume me, and I just became weaker and weaker. I thought I was becoming harder. People have this misconception that you become mentally strong through trauma, and people seem to think that certain types of soldiers or certain types of people that are from the streets and gangsters and these types of people are mentally strong. And I've heard these stereotypes pushed around because of what happened to them, as if the trauma itself, you get involved in a bunch of shootings or you go to war and you see a bunch of atrocities, that you somehow come back hard as a rock. No, not everybody comes back hard as a rock. In fact, it's more than 50%, I believe, of returning troops have PTSD. Some people handle it better than others. So I've always wondered why. Why is that? Why am I one of the weak ones? And I see people that can handle this kind of stuff. Well, being able to bounce back, being resilient is really important. That's one aspect of mental strength. But another aspect of it is how you react during the actual event itself. It's one thing to get really freaked out by something, but then be able to bounce back fairly quickly. That's great. That's an incredibly powerful skill to be able to cultivate and to have. But somebody on an even higher level than that can go through the actual trauma itself without freaking out, can remain stoic. Stoicism is a great philosophy. You can look into Marcus Aurelius, amongst others, Seneca, a bunch of others. So the two aspects of mental strength that I think define the term are the resiliency, how much you can snap back like a rubber band. I look at it like being a palm tree in a hurricane. I live down here in the South. We get hurricanes all the time. The palm trees don't really get knocked over very often. It's rare, very rare. Even in the worst storms, I've seen some really bad ones. And, where the whole neighborhood's taken out. I don't really see a lot of palm trees laying. It's the big oak trees, the big, solid, firm oak trees, the ones that you might think are the strongest trees ever. The more rigid you are, the more brittle you become. And it's a good idea to be able to bend, to be able to, be flexible in life. So those are the aspects of mental strength that I think define it. So how do we get there? It's not just a trick, and I pointed out that it's not one experience. That's why I talk about trauma not being the path to mental strength. You don't have to become a soldier or go out and live some life as a gangster or go and have all these crazy experiences that are near death or detrimental to your life, to your health in some way in order, and then survive them and pat yourself on the back and say, well, look how much I survived. That must mean I'm strong. No. The path towards mental strength isn't just a book you're going to read or an experience that you're going to have. It's a collection of daily actions. It's a process. You have to get deeply submersed in the notion of personal growth and personal development every day. And that doesn't mean just if you're a painter, that doesn't mean painting more. It's good if you're a painter, paint until you're dead. But that's not exactly the type of, personal development I'm talking about. I'm talking about a more of a form of self help, of therapy, of making yourself better, of becoming really absorbed into your problems and your flaws and your faults, looking at that clearly and seeing really what kind of piece of shit that you are. And the flaw, we all have bad flaws. We all do, everybody. And there's nobody perfect. Anybody who thinks they're perfect out there, that they've reached, I think I'm doing pretty well. That's this really strange form of vanity. I don't really get down with that. I don't understand that. I believe there's always more I can do. I have tons of fears, and I try to conquer them every single day. And that's the key towards being mentally strong, towards being mentally tough, is being on a strict program consistently of making your mind a better place, landscaping your mind, of doing a little feng shui in there, of trying to make yourself better, to conquer your fears, to get over the traumas of your childhood, to get over the traumas of your adulthood, of the things that have, the worst that's happened to you, that you've put yourself through, to own up to it all, and to be very humble, and to go and dive into that realm, and to learn how to fix that stuff. Like a car that's needs maintenance. You can't just acknowledge, oh, well, yeah, I know that my car needs an oil change. That's not maintaining your car. You have to actually change the oil. So you want to get in there and not only just notice what's wrong with you, not just identify it, but then go and fix it. And you have all the tools at your fingertips with the internet to watch videos and to learn about self-talk and having a positive mindset, learning how to be productive. One of the things that I like to promote is physical exercise. Physical exercise can teach you a lot about your mind and about how to be a good person, how to be productive, how to be consistent, how to push yourself. But there's other ways to do that also. But this is what you'll have to do every day. And you don't just plateau. You don't just get to a point and you're like, oh, you look back and you say, well, look how far I've come. This is great. Okay, here we go. The second you stop, you start to degenerate. I've done this. I got to a point years ago where I felt like I was doing pretty well. And I snapped myself out of a real horrible mindset. I was a real piece of shit, a real son of a bitch. And I changed myself. I recognized that I need to change. And that's the most important key. Other people can't just tell you this. You have to have the realization strongly. And because once you are convicted, you have convictions, you have your sights set on something, there's nothing that will stop you. Once you've decided, and I know a lot of men like this. My light just turns on, it's on a timer. So once you get your sights pointed in a direction, you know where to go after that. But it takes a lot to figure out how to get there. And I got to a certain point where I kind of plateaued and I feel like, okay, I read a bunch of books and I had, done all kinds of forms of self-help, went sober and this and that. I could name up all the little things on my personal development resume and pat myself on the back for it. And people can be like, well, that's wonderful. But I just kind of leveled off. I kind of stopped. I got incredibly absorbed with my motorcycle shop and my business. And it was a 24-hour-a-day obsession with my motorcycle shop. and I justified it and figured, well, this is my time to shine. This is what getting my shit together was all for. And I was successful. I'm not complaining about it. But what I regret looking back on it, because that was a while ago. I've been doing this motorcycle thing for 20 years now. So now that I'm much older, I look back and I realize that that was a big failure of mine, to plateau and to look back on how far I'd come and pat myself on the back so hard and to just kind of stop and say, well, this is good enough, because it wasn't good enough. And I look back on who I was, and being, as we get older, we get more mature and we're wiser. And I look back on who I was when I first started my motorcycle shop 20 years ago, 19 years ago. And I realized that I could have been so much more successful in life, in my relationships, and even in my business, if I would have stayed on a continual path of personal growth and personal development. Not give up, not stop, not plateau, to keep going forward, keep breaking new grounds, keep moving forward is the key. I've picked up that baton and run with it later in life again, and now I realize that I won't let it go. Every single day for the last few years and for the rest of my life until the day I die, every day, 7 days a week, I will find the time to make myself a better person, set goals for myself. When I wake up in the morning, I recognize my inadequacies. When I go to bed at night, I try to acknowledge how far I've come. I'm living an entire lifetime in one day. That adds up. It's like putting pennies into a piggy bank. It all adds up. And you build up what you call character. And you build up what you call mental strength. And then when the worst things happen to you or happen around you, instead of breaking down and becoming, like a slug on the floor, I've been there. I've literally just been on the floor, weak, crying, feeling helpless. And I'm not talking about as a 10-year-old. I'm talking about as a grown man. I've been that way. But I never will again. I'll be able to handle the worst. I always look at it this way, and I didn't come up with this theory. It was told to me, but it was really powerful, that when you're at your, say for example, your mother's funeral, or your wife, or somebody that's really close to you like that, when you're at a relative that it really means a lot to you, you're at their funeral. Who do you want to be? Do you want to be the one crying on the floor? Because you may see people like that. No, what am I going to do? I've been there. I've been that person, sobbing, feeling weak and powerless, not knowing what to do. Or do you want to be the strong one, the one that can help others, the one that can be supportive, that can be positive, because you may be in a role in your life where you have to start thinking about other people. And in order to be there for other people, you have to be able to get to a certain amount of mental strength. If anybody who has kids knows this. In order to be a good father and a good man, you have to be a protector, and you cannot all of a sudden become some little weak bitch when trouble hits. If trouble goes against your son or your daughter, whatever it may be, you have to be able to, like a light switch, go into warrior mode. You have to be able to have the clarity and sight of how to handle situations, even if it means to knowing when to be violent or when not to be violent, because not every situation is going to call for violence. To be able to use tact, to be able to successfully use conflict resolution skills, diplomacy. This all comes from an inner state of calm, a sense of mental strength that you need to cultivate daily. Personal growth, daily work on your personal growth is how you obtain mental strength. That's the key. That's it. That's the answer. So thanks for watching.